Mind Body Life show hosted by Frederick Entenmann on Global Voice Radio on Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern. During his show, Mind Body Life founder and best-selling author Frederick Entenmann investigates the little-known insights and daily methods used to create explosive life transformations and transitions with those that have risen from struggle and ascended to greatness. Here is your Mind Body Life host, Frederick Entenmann.
Welcome to the Mind Body Life show. I'm your host, Frederick Entenmann. I'm a former professional athlete, a best-selling author of Surviving Sports and the Game of Life, a coach, consultant, and I help professional athletes create lasting success outside of sports and win the game of life. I want to welcome you to episode 38. It's going to be all about harmonizing your personal energy field. And I know that might sound a little metaphysical, but everything is energy. And we know this from our dear friends, Einstein and Tesla and all the physicians and scientists of the world. And everything's made of energy. And I'd love to go over those laws. And I want to start with a quote by Paramahansa Yogananda, who says, "Spirit is ever seeking to draw back the many into the one." I think this is an important episode because so many people claim, at least from the clients I've coached and dealt with, they seek balance. Now, balance is more fight or flight, so you're constantly teeter-tottering, and I think there's a huge misconception. Balance is only the beginning. When you can finally start to have that awareness and gain that balance, okay, we're getting somewhere, but what individuals really seek is to harmonize their lives, to reach that state of harmony, because harmony is really the beautiful resonance of the peaceful energies and those healthy intentions all coming together. And when we're in harmony with ourselves and others, this is what creates a fluidity to our life. And then you'll notice you'll start having more synchronicities that seems like coincidence, but it's really the spark of connecting consciousness. And like I said, the beginning of harmony is balance. And the energy of harmony actually, I don't know if you're familiar with heart math, but it's just wonderful. Heart math does all these cutting edge research studies on the heart and the energy of the heart. And the energy from the heart is now known to be many, 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 many times more powerful than the brain alone. And the energy of harmony is love. It really is the highest frequency that can be emitted. And it's all embracing. It's what we all seek when it comes down to it. That non-competitive love. And the intention of harmony then is really reverence. Now there's no higher vibrational frequency than the harmonic intention to bring that reverence to ourselves and all we encounter through the love frequency that can only be created through our own self, through our heart. The heart is really the center of our universe. And this intention alone not only changes our own destiny, but it creates that shift in the kind of that universal consciousness itself. It's been proven through science, hardcore math and science, which numbers don't lie. This consciousness alone of reverence is really the opus of the human heart. And that's been proven as well. I think when it comes down to it, 70 to 80% of clientele that have come to me, they really want more joy and happiness in their life. And I love another quote. It's joy is the realization of oneness, the oneness of our soul with the world and of the world soul with the supreme love. And That's by a spiritual expert out of India, Tagore. Basically, if you want to play in harmony and harmonize your life, there's a rhythm. There's a rhythm to the energies that are inexorably part of who you are. If you sit quietly, you can feel that rhythm moving through and around you, but you have to be completely quiet. I highly recommend going out into nature, like I always do, and honestly just sit there and be with yourself, be quiet, and you'll suddenly reconnect. It's like I guess a good analogy would be like the percussion with a symphony. And whether or not each of us is in harmony with this self symphony, it depends on how we're actually resonating with the energetic laws, right? And as I've seen, the resonance of our personal energy determines what we magnetize, actually. And the resonance of our intention determines the potential fulfillment of our desires. The problems with an issue, I'd like you to discern, if you've never been taught this, when you want something, actually, as it negates what you want, because you'll constantly be wanting. So what you want to say instead, replace all your wants with desire. As you begin to say that, you'll notice a shift as well. So desire something, not want something. In both of these cases, those kind of reverberations, they're internal. There's actually laws of the universe. There's laws to harmonization. It not only responds to our internal vibrations, but it reacts to our energetic connections with the outside world as well. And the harmony that really echoes throughout the world, it's in sync with the energy. Now it's been proven it's in sync with the energy of love, of the heart energy, that if you are resonating or not. Something that has happened in North America alone, which I've noticed throughout the years, everyone's in fight or flight. And when you're in fight or flight and you're in anxiety, you're in depression or stress, and you're emitting those lower energies, it blocks your heart. And therefore, that is why creating more or less of the same. I hope that makes sense. I've done separate podcasts on that alone. But so really, the love energy is an ever-present flow of potential. It's that powerful of an energy. They've measured it in hertz. It's a real phenomenon in its own self. Basically to the degree that we engage in these loving connections with others, we either align with this rhythm or we resist it. And when we align with it, that's when we achieve flow and these higher states of joy and happiness, really. Or we resist it and then we don't receive it, and we wonder why we're having these episodes of panic attacks, or stress, or overwhelm, so on and so forth. So as we make harmonic choices, as I like to say, in our dealings with others, we resonate with the magical frequency that attracts more positive energies to our lives, if that makes sense. And there's really a special presence when one is in harmony, or that state of flow. It's that synchronicity that brings all of the elements of our life into alignment. And it's incredible how many individuals I've spoken to or coached through. It's like a car. If you're out of alignment, you need to get that car into a shop or it's going to break down further, right? Same thing. So being in rhythm with the universe, as I say, creates really a complete shower of blessings, from just those little unexpected surprises of daily life to the successful fulfillment of lifelong dreams. And the more awareness, the more you're in this higher frequency, you'll know, because you can feel when you get out of that alignment, because it just feels like a lower gravity, a lower gravitational pull. And when you reach that awareness, you'll also notice what comes your way. And sometimes when not so ideal situations start to happen more than 3 times in a day, all right, I'm out of alignment. I need to realign and do this, this, and this. And, you know, the more and more you can create harmony within yourself, the more you're going to create that harmony between everyone else around you in your environment, and it excites a positive power that moves out to all people everywhere. And then you become magnetic. Then you're doing good because you're increasing collective consciousness. It's there's another quote I like by Gary Zukov, and he says, when you commit to a spiritual relationship with another human being, you begin to see that what is necessary to the health of your partnership is identical with what is necessary to your own spiritual growth, that each of you holds the pieces that the other is missing, actually. So the laws of harmony, I guess, to all of your relationships are just that. You know, the resonance of how you connect with others goes a long way towards determining how smoothly your life flows. And since your relationship is one of the most primary relationships of your life with yourself, it's also one of the strongest factors of your energetic resonance in the world as well. And healthy relationships are really made up relatively sound and responsible people who, you know, that to make the connection work, they really need to put forth some effort and prioritize the other person in the partnership itself. And in fact, pretty much any relationship is salvageable if both parties are willing to really work on it. And that's matter of fact. You know, through my life experiences, I can say one thing I've noticed. There's 3 things that are absolutely fundamental to any mutually nurturing relationship. And this is what I've noticed. This isn't limited to, you know, romantic relationships, but it includes all of the significant associations of your life. And I call them the 3 R's, okay? Respect, reciprocity, and real communication. And you may be able to maintain a connection with these very important ingredients, but don't kid yourself about having a real relationship. You know, number 1 is respect. When people come to me for coaching, I start by asking them a couple questions. Do you respect your partner if you have one? Because 9 out of 10 times people want to increase their relationships. That's just how it goes. You know, and then I ask, does your partner respect you? I start with these questions because if there's no respect on the part of one of the partners, it's very unlikely that the person will be willing to do the work it takes to make the relationship better. And believe it or not, almost everything else needed in a relationship can be taught if both people are willing to learn. And that requires change. That requires undoing things and redoing others, right? So yes, it's work. And if the relationship didn't start with the respect, then was never really a relationship at all. That's just kind of how I look at it. It kind of was entered into for the wrong reasons, more or less, and then was intended as something else, probably acquisition, in a lot of ways, unfortunately, manipulation, or just plain usury. I deal with professional athletes. I've seen just about everything. It's just absolutely incredible. And then you're dealing with large sums of money, which I bring up because I just went over manipulation and usury, right? So this is why I always tell my, my single clients who are into dating or whatnot to be very, very aware of any signs of disrespect. And I'm always amazed at the amount of clients who've been willing to kind of disregard those signs, the red flags. They think that the respect will get better once they're married. And I mean, never make that assumption. It's hard enough to maintain respect as time goes on, but never mind having to establish it after the infatuation wears off. So trust me, I've been there, done that. And there's nothing more lonely than to be in a relationship where you're not respected. So your time together becomes empty, and it really becomes filled with dread and apprehension. So if you're one of those people who thinks that any relationship is better than no relationship at all, you really need to think twice. And if that hurts you or comes across the wrong way, I'm sorry. I'm just helping you. Not only does that thought dishonor you, okay? They don't teach you this in school. Not only does that thought dishonor you, that stings a little bit, but this world, okay, the universe, the energies may just send you something to educate you on this matter. Nothing worse than victimization. Everything in your life is because of you. It's on you. And the victim mentality is really a false learned behavior. And so there's nothing more powerful that can be more powerful in your life than taking ownership, taking complete personal accountability over everything. Without respect in a relationship, someone is just being used. It's more of a service than a love partnership. And this is why the feelings of emptiness are so great, because you're looking to your relationship for a sense of support, right? And not only does that not happen when there's no respect, but the exact opposite happens and you sense a loss of support. And sooner or later, staying in a partnership where you're not respected will also cost you your own self-respect. Trust me, I know this from experience. And since, self-honor is virtually impossible when you consistently allow someone, especially your significant someone, again, to dishonor you, can only attract more and more misery down the road. And there's no question that mutual respect is the foundation of any happy and strong relationship. All good things that come, including real depth of feeling and willingness to prioritize each other. It comes from a mutual, reverence and regard to your loved one. It's this kind of respect that can take the connection to incredible heights and make it a profoundly deeper one, a spiritual one. And, without it, your relationship will turn into one struggle after another. Seen it too many times, been through it myself. You're not taking the easy way out by choosing to stay in a relationship that's really devoid of respect. In reality, that choice is the longest, hardest road you can travel. And you deserve more, much more such as knowing that you have the good opinion even of your partner. And you also deserve the sharing and caring that comes from equal partners prioritizing each other, which is a whole nother set of reciprocity and skills on its own. And then in fact, the only way that you can achieve the kind of reciprocity that really a healthy relationship calls for is to begin with that mutual respect. I already mentioned it about a minute ago. I said reciprocity. That's number 2 of my R's, my 3 R's. Reciprocity really is the balance within a relationship. And it starts with the fundamental assumption by each person that you are 2 equal partners. So from that assumption alone, based in mutual respect, the 2 of you form really an interdependent relationship, which is mutually nurturing, and it's a reliant lifestyle. It's utilizing each person's talents, respecting those again, and the abilities in order to make the relationship run very smoothly. Now, responsibilities are shared. Partners are willing to help each other and often agreeing on dividing up the tasks and taking on certain roles. And it's being comfortable in that as well. No one can tell 2 people what makes a relationship reciprocal. They can only decide that for themselves. They need to talk about it honestly and openly. So if there isn't honesty, what I've seen is resentment build up over time. And that is actually the root of what makes relationships crash and burn. We need proper communication. I'll get into that next. But, really you need to arrive at an agreement without coercion or manipulation. Very important. Doing things honestly. Compromise and flexibility are an absolute must. If you are seeing, as you get to know someone, that they're inflexible and uncompromising and everything has to be by their standards, that's how do you expect that to work? Compromise and flexibility are an absolute must. I can't stress that enough, especially when the needs of a relationship or its individuals change, which over time it will. For instance, men and women tend to actually reciprocate in different ways. And domestic responsibilities and finances are 2 of the biggest issues that must be worked out. As women are working more now and many men are taking on more domestic responsibility, we see this every day, especially in the upbringing of their children. And then yet, in spite of all this, most women will tell you that job or no job, the bulk of the housework falls largely on their shoulders. And that's just an old belief system, which it's exactly what it is. It's old. And I actually am a huge advocate for, coming up with dual responsibilities, just making sure, being open about what you're comfortable with. The other might be great at something and the other not. You got to work this stuff out. But the point is sharing the effort, okay? Sharing the effort of living and making a living is a part of the partnership, right? It may not be equal, but it must be shared. And if it's not, the relating will soon turn into, again, resenting. And in fact, without this reciprocity, you no longer have a relationship. All you have is a habit, a really bad habit. The emotional reciprocity is also part of what makes a good relationship. And this is really the genuine sharing of feelings. It's the open opinions and the desires. Talk about with your significant other what your desires are. It's really opens things up, because when you desire something, comes from your heart. So you're speaking from your heart. It's very important. And in emotionally reciprocal relationship, the partners, you really should encourage and support each other. Trust me, it creates a relaxed environment, and one in which each partner is comfortable discussing his or her problems without really that fear of being ignored or judged. This is so intrinsic to a healthy relationship that it can't be overemphasized. So without that emotional reciprocity in your, romantic relationships, a person simply feels minimized, and then you're going to feel disconnected. And that's when it just all becomes very discouraging, if not ugly. It's an isolating feeling at best, and then seriously becomes traumatizing at the worst. But 9 out of 10 times I see individuals at the end, and but trauma's there. If it continues for any length of time, it can result in the destruction of one's self-esteem, actually. And it certainly results in the destroying of the relationship. It goes without saying. But even if some connection is maintained, it's still no bueno. And this is a devastatingly lonely place to be, and you never want to go there if you can possibly help it. The absence of reciprocity really starts with a lack of respect. So I'll go back to that. And it takes a huge amount of self-respect to get that reciprocity back. Okay? And while nothing ever is really 50-50 down the middle, and no two people ever give equal amounts of all things in any relationship, a strong sense of reciprocity can be achieved. So really, you got to work that out with your various systems and see what works. Each person must consider and really try to honor what the other person needs, right? That's the key. That's what I've learned. Reciprocity requires balance. So again, not huge swings on the teeter-totter, but kind of back and forth swaying. And then that willingness to communicate about what it takes to make that balance work so that it becomes harmonized. Number 3 is real. The third R is real, and then communication. So many individuals get caught up and just talk, and that's not authentic. A lot of talk is just noise, but when you get real, then you're being authentic. And when you're aligned and you can be real, that's when things usually work out. So the third ingredient that's absolutely necessary is real communication. And you just simply can't relate without communicating, It goes without saying. And in fact, relationships without communication, it really reduces the other to if it's your partner or significant other, right? They merely become your roommate. And even if you only consider, let's just say the intimate aspect of this, intimacy with an acquaintance feels pretty empty indeed. Anyway, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. After speaking to many, many, many people, that's the feedback I get. It's unbelievable. What people really want out of their life is connection, right? It's the lack of communication is where the majority of things is concerned. When all said and done, it's a big enough iceberg, okay, to sink the entire relationship. There's three, from my experience, there's three basic types of communication with many variations thereof. I'm just going over, 15 plus years of experience here. And the first is really superficial communication. So it's discussing the weather, the sports, the scores, the latest movies, politics, religion, all that stuff that usually relates around belief systems and opinions. The next is really logistical communication. And it's covering questions about what to have for dinner or what bills need to be paid and where to go on vacation. And then there's, of course, intimate communication, which involves both emotional and, let's face it, sexual intimacy. And these are really the expressions of feelings and fears and desires, and then the discussions of problems and your needs and concerns, right? It's this intimate talk that can cover everything from the boss who makes you crazy at work, or to what makes you excited or aroused, I suppose. It's that real communication that includes all three of these from what I've seen. Successful individuals that have great relationships, not only with themselves, but trickles over into whether it's marriage or significant other, includes all three, and they master all three. It's the superficial, again, it's the logistical, and then especially intimate communication. If you didn't grow up in a household with intimacy, then it might seem very uncomfortable. Personally, I grew up in a household where there was no intimacy. I never saw my parents have that intimate connection. I knew they loved each other, but true intimacy, no. So usually from what I've seen as well, in these three categories, you're going to be great in two, but even if you're lacking in the one, it's still going to hurt your relationships. So you need to educate yourself and see what you can improve upon, and your relationships will improve dramatically. Superficial communication is really fairly easy for most people since we do it all the time, right? It's unbelievable how shallow our talk actually has become. It's something I noticed when I moved out of the United States and to Europe, where I got to hear just how shallow they think our talk is. That was the first time I've ever even heard of that opinion. It's true though. It might get us through the day and help us deal with acquaintances, right? But certainly not enough to make a relationship actually real. The logistical communication is also pretty easy. And it's generally, if you think about it, it's task-oriented, and therefore usually doesn't even cause people to feel vulnerable, right? The absolute most difficult type of communication for most people is the intimate variety. Now, I truly believe this because if you think about our lives, you go to school, you do your homework, or you're in extracurricular activities from grades preschool or kindergarten up through 12, generally speaking, right? Everything's authoritative. When you're being told what to do, what to study, what to think, regurgitate, that's not very intimate. So I'm just saying, all in all, it doesn't surprise me that divorce rates are over 60% in this country because of the system we grew up in. It's not very intimate. We are not taught how to be properly intimate. That's just my intuitive theory, by the way. I'm not going to go on a rant there the expression of one's deepest feelings can be very risky, right? And having that vulnerability, it's more people are actually willing to take this risk at the beginning of a relationship, probably because they feel that their partner will be more supportive of this tender point. But over time, if you're not truly accustomed to revealing yourself in this way, okay, you're likely to shut this part of yourself down. And then you resort to superficial and logistical communication as your major form of connection. That's what happens. So even these relationships aren't without hope, okay? Because like I said, real communication is a skill that can be learned, but it takes work and awareness and coaching. And so to communicate actively, you need to really engage in 4 activities from how I look at it. Talking, listening, hearing, and then responding. This might seem basic, but you'd be very surprised by how many people stop at step 1 or 2. Okay, and in the process of real communication, each party interacts with each other. Party 1 speaks about something. Party 2 listens, and they hear it, and then actively responds, right? With an opinion or some encouragement or emotional or personal reaction. But the response allows the communication to build. And then without the response, it's not communication, but it's the mere dissemination of information, right? So as speakers, we need to say what we mean in a tone of voice that's non-threatening, really. So listeners need to hear what's being said and then respond appropriately. Now, this is very tricky because in a society now where 60, 70%, 75% of almost everyone's in fight or flight, when you're in fight or flight, you're not calm enough to really be reciprocal because you're not becoming an active listener like you could be. You're not connected to your heart. See how this all ties together? This has come from mere observation, okay, over 15 plus years of dealing with individuals and my own failed marriage, okay? So yeah, these are all things that I have simply observed and come to conclusions about. And sometimes, the response will call for a personal reaction or even an expression of our own experiences or feelings or opinions. And sometimes that's all that's needed in a kind of that sympathetic reaction, right? And over times, we may feel the need to ask questions or gain that clarity or get more information for that matter. I actually love those types of conversations. I just think it's just some of the best communication for me personally. But because when we ask questions, powerful questions, that you're going to get a response every time, right? No one's ever going to just stare at you after a question. Hopefully not. So our response shows our interest, right? It's how we relate and forge our connections. That is the mastery. That's the art. Lack of communication is really the biggest complaint I see in basically a lot of my clientele, actually. It's probably due to the fact that men and women have such different styles of communicating. There's so many references to this. There's so many books out there. It's a study and expertise in its own, right? We it goes without saying. Well, women can have They just can often be very emotional in their communication. Many men have been trained from early on to hide their emotions. And this includes myself. I come from a very disciplined, iron-willed German background. Both of my grandfathers were in the military. They flew planes in World War II and were very, in order to be, how about the belief that in order to be a man's man and to hide your emotions and not express yourself. That's being a man. That's being tough. So when those are really the seeds of, your lineage, you have to gain the awareness of how to undo that belief system. And that takes work. I learned through through a failed marriage of what didn't work. Trust me. It's this polar kind of approach that can create a lot of problems. Men don't really want to deal with the, quote unquote drama. That's really how it comes across to men, I suppose, because we're not as emotional. I've known some men to be as emotional, but all in all, not the stereotype. That's the way we process it. Women's emotions, I guess, are drama from what I've seen and heard, okay? The women can't understand why communicating is so hard because they're so great at it. People have to really learn how to communicate with each other. Again, it's my theory, especially after being in higher education and being certified as a teacher. I taught for a year and went through it all. What I noticed and observed, oh my gosh, no wonder why people can't communicate, because we're all regurgitating stuff that doesn't even matter. We're not really working on real life skills. This is part of the problem. It's nobody's fault. We are not trained and taught proper communication. Really begins by creating a safe and comfortable environment, not a reactive or even a militant environment where you're told what to read, what to learn. Hey, this test is going to be over this, and you just need to know these facts and then regurgitate them. Boom. You actually need to set aside some time to talk. You need to really hear what your partner is saying, or the other, or your friend, or whomever. So this takes being open. It also requires a lot of patience, right? It might feel awkward at first, but you need to really have the courage, and then even the endurance to stay with it. I laugh because just I have days where my significant other wants to talk, and I'm open, and I go, okay, here we go, and then 90 minutes goes by. But that's part of it, right? Real communication is absolutely crucial in maintaining the life of relationships and thus life harmony, right? It all intertwines. It's part of what we should be able to expect fully from our hearts. Need to have reasonable expectations, assuming that respect and reciprocity and real communication are well in place. There's some other qualities that a healthy relationship should be able to offer as well. And although you're the first one responsible for your own happiness, when it comes down to it, it's reasonable to expect your relationship to contribute to that happiness. And the very reason two people pursue a relationship is because they're looking for a safe place with a compassionate partner. I mean, we want to go through life with someone knowing that we'll be supported, someone that we know, is there for us. We're going to be encouraged and accepted. And then knowing all along that we'll bring the same support to our loved one in return. There have been studies on this, and on the some of the 5 regions called the blue zones in the entire world with the highest longevity factors. Well, one of the factors is connection. It's essential to life, is having that proper connection, which at the stem of that comes from our heart, and it's that hertz frequency, which is love. So take a look at the following list as I read this off. If you're attached, programming for your future partner, just start affirming that you're attracting a partner with I guess the qualities that are most important to you. If you're in a relationship, look at the list together, okay, and talk about how you feel openly and be honest, not judgmental. While no relationship is perfect, you should really be able to expect some of these qualities that I'm going to go over, at least some of the time. What I've written here, number 1 is honesty, integrity, and trust. Honesty and trust are very closely related, and you need to know that your partner has integrity for if you see them lying to others. It won't take long before you assume that they're capable of lying to you, right? If you can't be honest with each other, it's going to be impossible to foster an environment of trust. Some people have a hard time trusting, not because their partner is untrustworthy, but because they themselves are untrusting. And it's likely that they've become betrayed in the past. So a person who is untrusting needs to look at the real source of their pain so that they don't have to project their own fears onto their significant others or partner or friends. An individual who's untrustworthy needs to look at how they use their deceitfulness to give them a false sense of power. You see how that works. It's just psychology. Honesty really requires an openness about what's going on in each of your lives. You know what's important and what needs to be disclosed. It might be difficult at times, but deceit is never, ever an option. In a good relationship and a healthy, strong relationship with good bones, partners use really honesty to connect. They tell the truth. They never use honesty as an excuse to be judgmental. It's a very important point. I have next written on my list here, acceptance, tolerance, and patience. So letting go of judgment is a really important part of establishing that mutual acceptance. And in a really healthy, strong relationship, friends or partners, again, it doesn't automatically have to be intimate, okay? It can be with any relationship. Just acknowledge each other's differences and learn to accept them. Nobody's perfect, and you really need to tolerate each other's little quirks and idiosyncrasies. Personally, I've always hung out with the quirkiest people, that tend to just be so different because they bring a different perspective. The artists of the world that seem goofy to other people, actors, musicians, I love them all. All in all, commitment is a statement of acceptance. It's really that willingness to focus on wonderful things that excite and entertain you about your friend, and to overlook the minor annoyances that every single relationship carries. So short of your significant other engaging in something dishonoring to you, your decision to commit to them means that you've decided to accept them as they are, right? You're committed to being patient or flexible, and in the end, hopefully forgiving. And since people change, accepting them as they are now means also accepting them as they will be tomorrow. So you'll notice that, what I've seen is marriage vows don't really say love and honor until one of us irritates the hell out of each other, right? It just doesn't. Next on my list here, I have written appreciation, encouragement, and acknowledgement. Everyone needs to be appreciated. More than that, they need to be told that they're appreciated. I think men get in a lot of trouble. I know I have. I can say when I do get in trouble, it's because I think, okay, I appreciate my significant other so much. But the thinking, I think that she can hear me, I think. You have to, I know that sounds funny, but it's true. You just don't say it. More than that, you can think it, but my point is they need to be told that they're appreciated, right? It needs to be communicated. They need to be acknowledged for who they are and what they do. You also need to be encouraged when the going gets rough. That's really when you go through a cycle. You'll see what your relationship's made of, that's for sure. And this isn't all that's difficult to do. But there's some people who really refuse to praise or compliment their spouses. And this makes a huge difference in the experience of the relationship. It's inestimably valuable to know that your loved one believes in you and acknowledges your efforts and appreciates your special qualities, right? And I don't know, I keep bringing, my intention for this podcast wasn't to actually turn this into a relationship thing. I guess more or less I'm speaking about all relationships, because what I've seen as a coach and consultant, the deterioration of families, of marriages, of friendships, this is going on. And the answers are simply people are so wrapped up, they're in fight or flight, and they're just not working, not taking a step back and really working on themselves. A peaceful harmony can so easily be achieved. It really can. And so much unity could be established for real. And just by using some simple statements, such as the following, can help you out. I know how hard you work, and I want you to know that I appreciate all your effort. Just don't repeat it, mean it, right? Did I ever tell you how much I respect you? I'm really proud of you. I recently said that to my son, and his eyes lit up. It was just such an amazing feeling. That's proper communication. I've had to, take my bumps over the years and learn how to do that. These are the things I love about you, and then go on to describe those, right? I really appreciate it when blah, 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 blah. I believe in you. You can do anything you set your mind to. That might be when you see your friend or significant other or child discouraged with life, or they pick up your kid from school, and if you were to say that, it gives them a little boost. These are really wonderfully endearing ways to connect. They forge a depth of unity that enriches each person's life. Really try to give it a try. My list still goes on. Bear with me. I know this is going on here way past the normalcy, but I've got presence and priority. You know, if you're going to make a relationship work, you better plan on being present, which means being there, both physically and emotionally. It means being available for companionship, conversation, and affection. And in our fast-paced world of two-career families, it's not really uncommon for couples to see very little of each other from day to day, and even from week to week, scarily, but you simply can't relate to someone if you're never together. And in time, you'll look at your loved one and see a stranger. Please don't let that happen. If you don't want this happening to you, you must prioritize each other and the relationship. And this takes some planning, but you can have regular quality time together. You have to schedule it. And you have to make it just as important as your other priorities. I just kind of wanted to end with that. It's been a longer episode than normal. Could talk forever about relationships, because that's really what drives me, is creating better collective consciousness. And when we connect our hearts and emanate the love frequency, we're not only showing others through magnetizing our self-love, but it really has a profound effect on the environment. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. You can find me on Instagram if you are interested in bettering yourself and working on yourself. Send me a message. And you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And I look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us. Listen every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern to Frederick Intiman host Mind, Body, Life. Connect with Frederick at www.globalvoiceradio.com. Tune in next week for another edition of Mind, Body, Life on Global Voice Radio.